And we are live. Good morning and welcome to Freshly Pressed 981. I'm Ayo Myro Essay.
I'm Valentine Ohu. Good morning.
Freshly Pressed is part of the Smooth Breakfast Show here on Smooth 98.1. Joining us to analyze today's stories, we have Tunde Okufi. Good morning, Tunde.
Good morning, Niall, and good morning, Valentine.
Good morning.
Excellent. We also have Waji. Morning, Waji Chibuno.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Valentine. What's happening today? And good morning, Lagos.
All right, you can find Tunde at Big Coops on Twitter, on all social media platforms, and then you can find
Bluebird app.
Waji at the Corporate MC, Corporate to the K. I haven't said Twitter in such a long time, so I don't know where that came from. But yeah,
I do too.
this is how our listeners can connect with us.
Yes, please. WhatsApp number is 0809 0981. Please send a message there. You can watch live and interact as well as share the link with your friends and family. And on YouTube, we're streaming live. Just type Smooth FM Lagos in the search box to find us. I'll come to you for this first story. Why'd you go first? Oh, sorry, Tunde. The Punch has this headline. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has detained the ex-Edo State Governor, Lucky Igbinedion, for allegations of fraud going to the tune of 1.6 billion naira. We have a record of him, being detained before, or rather being convicted.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, it's and it's a very short one, so there's still very little detail that's coming out of this. And what I say, Lucky has been very lucky, so far. But let's see how long his luck runs. He got a conviction of 6 months in 2009. To be honest, I can't recall. I mean, if any of you can recall whether he did serve that time or it was in lieu of a fine or something. And now they're questioning him again. Several years after, it makes it's good. How do I say this? In the wake of what's his name? Maynard's conviction. Yes. Just in light of Maynard's conviction, are we turning a curve in terms of how we go after corrupt officials and corrupt public officials? There can always be arguments, and that's the argument that people make. Okay, that why it's the arguments around it being selective, why this person, why that person, and you can come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories backing that. But my argument always is you need to start somewhere, even if a process starts out as being selective. Ultimately, if it becomes institutionalized, it will go around the way it should, and it becomes practice. But I mean, there's no indication that this is selective in any way. The only thing is that it's been 2007. I wonder what the EFCC has suddenly woken up to. I mean, Lucky has been pretty below the radar. He has been pretty quiet. He hasn't been making any sounds and or noises. So it's a strange and interesting one. Perhaps maybe new information has arisen. Maybe he's insulted the wrong person. Who knows? But he's back on the radar. Let's see how things develop for him.
Interesting thought process there, shared. Tunde, thank you so much. Now, the next story is from Premium Times. Waji, Malami reacts to a suspect's confession, linking him to invasion of Marriott Lee's home. So last night actually, the news broke that about 14 suspects were arrested. Some presented themselves as journalists, some presented themselves as policemen from different, arms of, the law and media. But I find it interesting the amount of or the number of denials we've been getting from all these agencies that these individuals had claimed to be attached to. But based on the allegation leveled against Malami being complicit in this case, what are your thoughts regarding his reaction to say that, it's just almost similar to a dying man trying to desperately pull down another to go down with?
Well, I don't expect anything else from him with regards to that particular allegation, because it's what he should say. He's not going to admit that, yes, we employ the services of a consultant to aid us with the raiding of a justice's home. It's not going to happen. But there is no smoke without fire. And I think for this particular individual, Lawrence Ajudo, to come out and make that particular claim that he was indeed contracted by the Attorney General for this particular operation is quite indicative. Why would he come out and say that unless there's something beneath? Obviously, no evidence has come out to that regard. But I think this is something the authorities need to look into. I need to conduct investigations and begin to now work with this Lawrence individual to find out, okay, why are you saying that? Do you have any evidence to show that you were contracted as a consultant? What gave you the permission to go to that particular location in Abuja and actually obtain an arrest warrant? Because he actually was given an arrest warrant under the pretense of something. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. If indeed it's a situation where the Attorney General is able to be distanced from the story, then so be it. But at the same time, if I was an investigative police officer, I would dig further to find out why is this particular individual coming up with that particular statement. Because these things are often rooted with motive, and the motive just doesn't come out of nowhere. What is his purpose of raiding a justice's home? What is he? I mean, and you go there and nothing was missing. It's not like you robbed the place or anything else. So there has to be something underneath. Obviously, we don't have all the facts. The Attorney General has come out to make a very blanket statement indicating that he had nothing to do with it, and that's fine. But I do believe that we need to investigate further so that we can get to the absolute bottom of it, and then let the story just wither away.
My fear, as with many Nigerians, sorry, you're going to share a thought?
No.
My fear is that, because of the powers of Malami as the Attorney General, like the supreme position, so to speak, like it seems like most agencies will be handicapped to even go further to chase the case or investigate further.
That's a fantastic point, and that's why we have to rely on organizations like ICPC and all these other institutions to now take the bull by the horn and dig further. That's what should happen in this kind of situation. To your point, the Attorney General is very influential and also extremely powerful and can prevent these agencies from operating in that particular context. And if for whatever reason the security agencies don't do that, then that's what the fourth estate is for. That's what your media and your journalists are for. Get some journalists to now do some investigations and find out. All you need to do is just get a paper trail of information that shows a connection between Malami and this Lawrence Ajodo, even if it's just down to a simple financial transaction. Follow the money.
Malami even dared him in the details of the story to say, if you have any documentary evidence,
he's daring him because that's what powerful people do. Okay, it's show your worst kind of attitude mentality. Hubris. Thank you very much. And it reads like a Tom Clancy. So let's just see where this goes. I hope this is not the end of the story.
Onaivi Bamdele, to your question, Tunde says, lucky Igbinedion got a fine. He went to the boot of his car and took out the money and paid him.
That's my recollection. Thanks, Onaivi. That's my recollection. That's how it happens.
Because you hear of some cases, right? You give sentence 1 year imprisonment and then option of fine.
Option of 100,000. I'm like, really? And
Your Honor, to pay the fine.
It's ridiculous. Just going back to Lucky for a moment, when he, after his first term, and by the general consensus, he made a total hash of it. I remember then his dad's statement was, I mean, if a child fails, what do you do? You let him repeat the class. So maybe now, the EFCC are woken up to the fact that they failed the first conviction, and they want to repeat the class and run it again. So let's see.
Justice says, first was a judge claiming to be misled in granting a warrant, and now fake arrest warrant. Government magic on another level. Second base.
And we have this one from Inka. Inka said, are you surprised? Someone once claimed he was Saraki's political thug. Like it's a title. All right. Let's move on to this next story. On banditry, there's an update here, or rather, an update on this newspaper. Military deploys troops, attack helicopters on Abuja Cardinal rail line. We recall that a few weeks ago, actually 2 weeks ago, there was an attack on the rail line and they stopped operations temporarily. But the military high command yesterday said it had ordered deployment of troops and attack helicopters on the Abuja Cardinal Expressway in a bid to contain attacks by bandits on the rail line. They gave details on the recent victories they've scored in some areas that were highly affected by the insurgency. Your thoughts on this, Sunday?
Yeah, and it's good. It's instructive that you described it as an update, because it reads like a PR, press release, an update of these are the things that we're doing, and it spans from the securing of the rail lines to banditry in the northeast, and freeing some kidnapped or previously abducted people, bandits and their families. Surprisingly, they say surrendering to illegal oil activities in the Niger Delta. So it's a wide range one. I ask people to take a look at it, but to the rail line securing one, because that links to something that's happened, recently, and is an issue. Is an issue. Well, this is it's good. Once again, it's like bandage, right? And is it sustainable? We like to do things that are in the moment, and for lack of a better word, for show, right? It's for sure. How sustainable is this? Is this going to be the blueprint? Will this be the only rail line that we'll have? So as we increase rail line, we'll be increasing
Security.
military, helicopters to patrol the lines. With the Air Force engaged, and come on now, guys.
And there's a real cost implication. It's not like the helicopters are running on solar.
Definitely, yes. Definitely. And while they are manning rail lines, that means they're being diverted from their primary assignment. So is this, while it is interesting, or should I say, encouraging, that they're looking at the immediate issue, I'll still go back to when you have to secure large areas of infrastructure, intelligence. Some things may pass through the gaps and through the cracks. Then you respond to that, but you will catch the vast majority of stuff through intelligence. Now, there's some interesting and instructive things that I mentioned here. Like I said, it's a wide-ranging. Let me stick with updates. He mentioned, the terrorists had a number. He said it over and over. A number of terrorist cells had been neutralized. They were given all sorts of numbers that are difficult or maybe impossible for any of us to verify. But then he did say that that women who are logistics suppliers to insurgents, and he gave their names: Mrs. Umar, 19, with a child, and Mrs. Bakura, 20, all residents of IDB camps in Bama. And I want to bring out in there, it's not the names, it's that they're in IDB camps, right? They're in IDB camps. So are we thinking and realizing, everyone has been shouting about the state of IDB camps?
Yes.
They're internally displaced because of insecurity in their hometowns. They're essentially refugees. They're vulnerable, right? And they are ripe for radicalization.
Yes.
Jonathan. So a lot of those IDB camps are training grounds for the next set. We can't leave it. It's like we've almost settled into it, and IDB camps is now another category
like a new
of
settlement.
Yes,
which shouldn't be.
just another category of Nigerian society now. There are people in IDB camps, but essentially what it is, they're breeding and training grounds for radicalization and insurgency. It's just not right.
I mean, Tunde, you've hit the nail on the head, because when you think of the birth of ISIS came out of the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq during the American occupation. And when these individuals were wrongly arrested and penalized, they now formed ISIS as a result of being within that particular detention facility. That was the birth of ISIS. So to your point, you're going to see the birth of more terrorist groups coming out of these IDP camps, because like Tunde perfectly articulated, it is ripe for radicalization.
Thank you, Tunde. Thank you, Waji.
Thanks. Very, very important point there. I wish we could delve into, although I think we've talked about it a number of times. Okay, so what's the solution? And interventions. We have an agency dedicated. NEMA, what are they doing? What is, what's the plan? Like you mentioned, or is it just okay? We just accept that this is now permanent, and they're going to be living there now.
For me, first and foremost, I know we should stop looking at quick and immediate fixes. Which is even the reaction to sending to patrol is a quick and immediate fix. You can do that, but we're very easy. We do the quick and immediate fix, and we leave the hard work. How did we arrive at where we arrived? And certainly just didn't suddenly wake up. Yeah, this is something that has been building up. And been building up because of neglect, right? There's a lot more. There's really a lot more that needs to be done. How did we arrive at a place where it suddenly became more attractive for young people to engage in banditry and terrorism than it was, because they didn't see a future? There's so many things that we need to deal with the immediate causes, but we need to have a plan for for Nigeria to level up.
Level up is the game. But we have this messaging from, what's your name? Ike. Ike says, I think some of these updates are merely intended to boost confidence among citizens. I don't think the military will deploy such resources to hover and man rail lines. The cost implication will be huge.
There's no way for us to validate. They may have gone for a few sorties, just so that when they make the announcements, there is some truth to it. But they're back at base.
The Punch has this update. There's a lot has been said about the deregulation, plan to remove subsidy by July of next year, 2022. But the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has come up with an update to how the deregulation is going to flow, because most concerns were raised around how Nigerians are going to weather the shock, so to speak. But she said there's a 12-month plan right after the deregulation kicks in, where palliatives will be sent directly to Nigerians, their bank accounts, to relieve the stress of the removal of the subsidy. But
Okay, so let me just be absolutely balanced. Everything that she said is correct in reference to the points around subsidy no longer making sense. Primarily when you think about how much is invested in petroleum subsidies, how that money is now taken away from other important areas of the country, vis-a-vis education, healthcare, and to some degree infrastructure and also security, because that money is now used to subsidize the cost of us importing petroleum. Now, we can get into the details of these palliatives, so to speak, in reference to people getting a certain amount a month that can easily be diverted using BVN and NIN. All those things sound very nice. They're very nice, but that's not the root of the issue. The root of the issue is that we need to stop importing petroleum. End of story. Because what happens is that when you're a major importer and you import petroleum, it comes at a landing price. And you have to now transfer that price, because as a business person, you have to borrow that money or raise that money for you to be able to import petroleum.
Yes.
And you're not going to sell it at a loss. That doesn't make economic sense, which is why subsidies are in place. So if subsidies are in place, then what will now happen is that the market will fall where they are. Depending on who you are, the strength of your importation, and how you decide to now add value-added services to be able to now control costs, the price will be what the price is. So you as a consumer will go to a particular oil and gas company or petroleum company where you can fill up on your car based on the attractiveness of the quality of the petroleum, number one, and also the pump price. That's how these works, as a law of economics. So from a country point of view, as a person that makes sure the environment is stable, you need to make sure our internal refineries are working. You should now begin to have an ardent focus on that, so that you can even begin to eradicate this entire conversation around importation, eradicate the entire conversation around fuel subsidy. That is the only solution. Palliatives towards Nigerians to make it easier is literally putting bandage over a gunshot wound. And until you attack the foundational issue of this entire conversation, in the next 10 years, we're going to continue to be talking about fuel subsidy.
please point to the foundational issue. I mean, going by your phrase.
Yeah, the foundational issue is that we need to fix the refineries.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only way we're going to have, that's the only solution to this problem. Until we are locally refining petroleum products, we're going to continue to import. And as long as we continue to import, that comes at a cost. When you now begin to locally refine it, what now begins to happen is that you reduce that cost significantly. That's it. And once you do that, there's no longer conversation around fuel subsidy.
In fact, there's an update here that I found in the Punch this morning while I was scrolling through the internet to search for news. Libya has been announced as an African country that has overtaken Nigeria as the largest producer of oil.
Yeah, but we're not, I don't even think we're number two anymore.
Yeah.
We haven't been number one for a long time. So I think Angola came in at number one, and I think Libya is now number two. So we haven't even been in the top 1% for years.
Imagine that.
Even though in the 90s and 80s and 70s we were number one, but we haven't been for at least 10, 15 years. And it's because we just haven't had a proper focus on what to do with this particular service.
Yeah.
Thank you, Waji.
Thank you very much, Waji. All right, we have some comments and then we'll come to our next story. Sean says, what's the point? Remove money from subsidy payments, prices go up, and then you send the money to people's accounts. This is just senseless. Simply stop sending out crude oil and bring back petrol. Oh, okay. So the reason I'm raising my voice at that point is because he put all that in caps from the simply stop. Okay, Tunde, let's go to our next story here for today. Security. Lagos safer, more secure, Sanwo-Olu boasts. Punch newspaper. It's actually an extract from a speech that he made during the opening of a newly constructed and equipped Ise Town police station in Ibeju-Lekki area of Lagos State. So the Punch newspaper has picked out a point from his speech to highlight, saying that we're safer, more secure. Would you say this is the case today?
Do you feel safer?
No.
Feel more secure?
No. I can answer that very, very.
Because I mean, we all. I mean, while you can say, you can point to hysteria, or whatever. We all receive those forwards literally on a daily basis around how to live and secure yourself in Lagos, or some new scheme or gimmick to get you to stop on the express road in isolated places. I know someone who got attacked on no less than Ozumba, no less, like his friend or a friend who got attacked on Ozumba, no less. You would think, in well lit,
That's in Victoria
part
Island,
of
yeah.
well lit part of the city, that a thing like that won't happen. But no, these things do happen. It's so now the governor receives security reports, so he will be more informed than the general or than the average person on the real security situation and statistics of the state. So I have no problem with him saying this. It may actually even be true. But when they make statements like this, because it's a quantitative statement, right? If there were 100 attacks before,
Yeah.
and now there's 70, there's a reduction, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you are 30% safer. When they make these statements, they should back it up with information and data. It helps.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Just like the anyhowness, we just do anyhow.
But Tunde,
You know.
beyond, we don't see, if it was I was very close, we are just trying to know, then we need data.
No,
The
I'm coming
data,
there.
the people even
I'm
sending
coming there.
comments.
I'm even just talking about it. I'm talking about like when you make a
Yeah, but
statement, whether
very
it's
fair
factual or
point,
not.
yeah.
It's just like if in academic rigor, if you make a statement, there must be
Back it up,
citations
yes.
and references.
Yes.
This is the reason why I've said this. It's not me just speaking out of both sides of out of multiple orifices. You need to back it up. So they should do that. They should begin to do things like it helps. Now, if we put the quantitative aside, qualitative, how do people feel? Do people actually feel safer? Right? And there are things that you can do. Beyond making statements when you go and commission police stations in far-flung places, you can. There is a communication and engagement strategy that needs to happen.
Yeah.
There are also specific spots, that if you deal with, it will seem to have a somewhat more disproportionate, effect. Bottom line, that there's smaller things that you can do that will have a larger effect on security. The certain axes, there are places that people use that we have to, there's certain axes in the states. Lagos State we're hamstrung by a couple of main arteries.
Yeah.
Sometimes those arteries are left unmanned. And the chances of, something happening are higher because, it's just left unmanned. And to get from one side of the other, you have to go through it. So maybe small things like that, they need to focus on the qualitative a bit more,
And just to buttress that point about qualitatives is because insecurity is about perception. It's not about numbers. Okay. Part of why Trump was so successful in his campaign in 2016 was that he made Americans feel like they were not safe, even though statistics had proven that security had gone, insecurity had gone down quite a bit. But what he kept saying is, I don't really care what the people are saying regarding the numbers. The question is, do you feel safe? So the question we now have to ask back to Tunde's wonderful point about qualitative measures is, do people feel safe? You can say that we've gone from 10 robberies to 7 robberies. That's fantastic. But do people feel safe? And until you attack those qualitative measures, then I'm sorry, those statements are just whistleblowing.
In fact, Dr. Lawal on YouTube says the governor is playing with words.
That's it.
Lagos is safer than other states in Nigeria, but Lagos is not safer than it was before.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Talking about safety, well, sort of. Wiki accuses federal government of intimidating judiciary ahead of 2023. So if I rephrase that, the judiciary, they don't feel safe as they're intimidated by according to Wiki, intimidated by the government. River State Governor Mr. Nyesom Wiki has reiterated that the invasion of the residence of Justice Mary Odili was a ploy by the federal government to intimidate the judiciary to a state of fear ahead of the 2023 general elections. Now, Waji, does his statement have merit? That's the first thing. Then the second thing is the implication of intimidation of the judiciary, especially when it comes to elections, so that people will understand the reason why it's dominated headlines literally all through this week and since it broke.
Tunde mentioned people speaking out of multiple orifices. This is another example. I find it rich that Wike can actually come out and make these kind of statements after we've seen what he does during elections, how he has mobilized, instruments of the state to make sure that he wins elections. So, okay, put that aside. I get what he's saying, and what he's saying is a political grandstanding move, primarily because he has ambitions for 2023, and what the federal government has done with these situations around raiding of justices' homes is expose themselves to people like Wike to now give them such criticism, especially if they have political ambitions. And to your first question about whether or not it has merit, yes, the statement has merit. Whether or not the person making the statement has merit is another question. The second point you made about the implication of raiding the justices' homes, yes, I mean, these are very, 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 very huge allegations, very, very potent things that need to be carefully articulated. And the government, if indeed they are doing it, I don't know why they would. I don't see the point or purpose, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's not like you can't have a conversation a different way to get the kind of outcomes that you want. But if indeed that's what they're doing, then they need to be able to maybe change their 1980s Cold War tactics to stop threatening justices and just find another way to get it done. This is Nigeria. You don't necessarily have to resort to violent nor aggressive means to accomplish rudimentary solutions.
Yeah.
So bottom line, I get what Wike is saying. Whether or not he has merit to say it is another conversation. But it just puts the federal government on watch with regards to their behavior going into the next election.
Absolutely. Thank you. This one from Jerry. Jerry says, please, is it true that they'll be transferring to us our transport fares as a means cushioning the effect of the subsidy removal? I just love
There's a
the way...
condition though.
Wait, I just love the way the government deals with the citizens. Very caring. Palakpala. Shackled. I mean, I had to say that palakpala means rubbish and nonsense. So the sort of, but it's deeper in the way he said it.
Right.
You're going to say, Val?
No, I was going to say there are conditions. I mean, NIN, BVN, those have been cited. I know how those go. Right.
All right. Okay. So let's go on to our next story. Very unfortunate news. Tunde, missing Vanguard reporter Toju Salem found dead. Missing Vanguard reporter has been found dead in Abuja. Details of the circumstances surrounding the recovery of his remains were still sketchy as at 9:30 p.m. Thursday. Now, I believe that's the main part of addressing his death. The rest of this article it points to another sad thing that happens in Nigeria, where people take advantage of unfortunate situations like this, as we see in this case. Please, I'd like you to just speak to what happened with the, someone calling his wife who was acting as if it was a kidnapper because he had seen the viral poster.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and in that instance, in this, so I mean, I won't even call that one, prank calling. That one is just playing with fire, and knowing our justice system, when you play with fire, you very easily get burnt. It's unfortunate, but this is, back to the, feeling safe story. This is the reality of many, day-to-day Nigerians going about their business, right? If you don't even need to stand out, you just need to appear okay. And then he's a journalist working for the covering the House of Reps.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that someone had seen him and thought he was the special advisor to the special advisor of someone that is significant, and carried him, only to find out that the man is a journal and he's just your average citizen. The circumstances, whether it's actually, for ransom or not, is unclear. We really don't know. It might have been a robbery gone wrong. There might be other issues, behind it. It might be premeditated. It may not be. It may have been opportunity. It may have just been a robbery. But it's very sad, like you point out, that people see this and then view it as an opportunity to try to extort the family and make 100 million. I know the naira has taken a tumble, but 100 million is still a lot of money.
Naira's coming back a little bit.
Yeah, it's still a lot of money. So it's a sad one. I mean, the family. I mean, in terms of recovering their loved one, the family have learned the outcome. The man has unfortunately been killed and been murdered. But for me, it should be only the beginning of unraveling how this happened, and hoping that they do uncover what's really what's happened. And also maybe not just even make the assumption that people called may have prank called. They should follow every lead. Is what I'm saying.
They've picked up the man.
They should follow every lead.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But I mean, the part that worried me, two parts, actually. I mean, the fact that he said he was quoted in the details of the story that he was going with a female relative who dropped off at some point, and then he told her the last message or communication was that he was going to his own
Yeah,
aides.
it's on it.
You know, so that trail, the investigation should actually
Yeah, should
follow
follow that. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but just to mention that Lagos, Nairobi, others to benefit from the UK's £27.5 million zero emission fund. So that's good news in terms of our drive to fight climate change.
Yes, especially influence on affecting positively our transport system.
All right, Ayopam Amuo with the last comment here says Lagos more safe. 4 days ago, the bridge from National Art Theatre to Relay by 8 p.m. or thereabouts, people were robbed while in traffic, looking at their phones and money or stealing their phones and money. Please, how safe is this?
Yeah.
Thank you all. I think we had many things to say about Lagos and safety. Maybe we should take it as a conversation on its own one of these days. Thank you to our analysts. Yeah, you can say something.
I'll say thank you to our YouTube fans as well, those who listened and watched on YouTube and commented.
All right. Thank you, Tunde. Tunde is at Big Hoofs on social media. Thank you, Waji. Waji is at the Corporate MC on social media. The Corporate MC is with a K. And then we are at Smooth981 on Instagram. Check us out. On YouTube, you can watch a replay of today's show on our YouTube channel, Smooth981. And also to Valentine Ohu's viewers on his Instagram page. Hi. At Valentine Ohu, you can also catch a replay of the show on there too.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have today's edition of a Feel Good Friday, Lagos Talks 981. Do stay tuned and hear what our question of the day would be.
Oh man, Lagos safe. Yes.
As in, I'm like, we're not